Hello, today I will be showing you something a little different, where you can paint your own textures in Photoshop, Paint Tool, Cyclops Studio, or any 2D application of your choice. Bring it into Blender and start constructing very basic models and using these as textures. That way we can slowly build up a scene. Pretty low poly, but hopefully it's a good introduction into the process. I have these all on transparencies, and I've saved this out with an alpha. Saved it out having an alpha. Okay, so I'm just going to switch back into Blender here. We see the default scene, and we'll just delete everything here. We're going to click on the top right, drag this out, and now we have the split view. Click again until the crosshair appears, click, and we're going to drag down. What I'm doing here is just basically setting up the layout. That'll be quite easy to navigate towards and start changing the textures. On the top one, I like to have this as the UV editor. The bottom one as the shader editor. I'm going to add in a plane in this window. Right now, there are no materials on this, so we're going to click. We're going to navigate towards the shader window we have here. Hit new. Now I've added a new material. We can't see the color of it. If we could do this, you can notice that nothing's happening. That's because we're in the viewport shading. This only takes into account the mesh itself. We'll have to either use the viewport shading or the actual... Are these different actually? So one is rendering it out, and the other one's just using the internal renderer, or material preview. If we go to material preview, this doesn't take into account lighting information unless we specify it to. And this one here is more representative of what's going to be rendered out. As you can see, the material has now changed color. Alright, what you can do now is we're going to do Shift A to add search for image, and we're going to use the image texture. We're going to plug the image texture into the base color. So color to base color. Anything you plug into here will inherit the color that you plug into. We're going to open up, and now the pop-up won't show because the program I'm using only is capturing Blender, but navigate towards the folder that contains the texture or image you want as the color. I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to desktop, Blender setup. You can see now that the texture has been added, but nothing's up here. That's because we have to select the Blender setup. I'll now add the texture here. We can see it here. It looks a little bit squished, but that's because that's the way the UV maps are. If we tap into it, you can see it's stretched all across here. Let's tab out. And my screencast keys aren't. There we go. So, we have our texture here. We have our texture node here. We have our image here. We're going to build a very simple building just using these textures here. But first, we're going to just plug the color to the surface, so that it doesn't have any of this fancy stuff. We don't need this right now. It's too distracting, and I like to finesse using this later on. Alright. So, when we tab into this, we can manipulate where the texture space is going to be. So we're going to select everything here, shrink it, and you notice on the viewport, down here, it's updating in real time. I'm going to navigate, and we're going to choose this block here. You can see that when I move this one vertex, it's kind of stretching it towards the top here. This way, we've now added a simple plane. But what happens if we stretch this up? So, I'll select all the vertex edges here, or simply click on the face, hit E, drag up. Well, you can see that top and the bottom are staying the same, but around it's all purple. That's because it's a super thin line, as noted here. So it's stretching the color on the sides upwards. Just to show you the effect in full, if I start moving it in, you can see it's stretching lines this way. While this may look undesirable, I like to use this method to create really fun and cool shapes and colors and reusing as much as I can with these textures. But for this purpose, we'll select all the edges around. Navigate towards the front. I like to hit numpad 1. So it's going to go to the front orthographic. There's a button up here called UV. If you hover over it, it's a shortcut U. Click on this, we're going to project from view. Now it's projecting from the view, but on all sides. What does that mean? Well, if we zoom in and try and fit this in here, it's going to work from the front and the back. So front and the back now have that texture. If we click on the sides here, you can still see that's flattened out. Have those only selected, navigate towards the side. That is numpad 3. We're going to go to UV, project from view, navigate this up here, and now we've mapped this box. But what about the roof here? If we want this to be this kind of wooden texture here, well, we can click on the roof, simply move that to the side here. And as you can see, it has now changed the color. That's pretty cool. We can add in a slice via the Control R. And that just gives us an extra edge loop to work around with. So once you have that down, click this, GZ, and move it upwards. Now we have a proper looking roof. We can see that it's like a cut. We could probably have a cut here to have more of a interesting variation. At this point, you can start like cutting and slicing and adding in different textures towards whatever you want. For this demonstration purpose, I'm just going to speed along here. I'll try and explain as much as I can. So, K is the knife tool. Click here towards the edge that you want, and click on the other edge here. Once you like that, hit space. Let's see, there's some correction going on here because it's starting to try and figure out what you want to do with this new shape. If we click here and here, you can see it's backwards and doing this. But we can also navigate and switch that over that way. We can also continue with the UV trick, where we can click on this, UV, project from view. And now it's in the orientation. It's a bit more understandable. We can shrink it and scale it up. Do it on this side as well. Now we can do it's a knife tool. Remember, we have to click on the vertex, or the edge point here. And as you can see here, as soon as there's another dot, or a blue square, that means it's going to make a vertex cut there. Click here, spacebar to activate. Click. It's in the same spot here. Oh. And we're going to go to the front, or back. To toggle between in between front and back, it's Control numpad 1. Control numpad 1. To make things a bit more simpler, we'll just select the 2. UV, project from view. We can drag and click all of that, and we have now a simple house. We've taken a few steps, but hopefully you're starting to build a sort of workflow that you can build off of. We also have this window and a cat character here. How are we going to go about adding that? Well, let's add a plane. You can see here, we're going to assign the material 1. Tab into it. We're going to make sure it fits our lovely cat character here. But if you noticed, there's no alpha information. It's completely solid. What if we wanted the cat to be, in front here? Well, it's not going to work out this way. So what we have to do is, you'll see there's an alpha thing here. We need to add in something that takes into account the alpha. For this demonstration purpose, I'll just be going back to the principal BSDF, plugging that in, plugging the alpha into alpha. But note, I've also made a mistake here. I forgot to make a new instance of the material. So what I have to do is delete this, remake this, click on the cat, material.001, click on this, call this cat, and now, as you can see, they're not linked, but if you look at the icon, they're exactly the same, but they're different instances of the same material. We've made a copy of it. If we go back to this with our principal BSDF, it's only changing this. I'm going to drag the alpha into the alpha, and as you note, nothing's changed. Well, Blender likes to be a little finicky this way, where we have to go a step further. We'll have to go into... I don't remember where it's at. Settings. Blend mode. Alpha blend. And now it's blending the alpha. There's two differences here between alpha blend and alpha clip. I like to use alpha clip because in the past when I try to have multiple alpha blends on, stacked on top of each other like this, I kind of want to have like a depth of field, but it's trying to blend between the alphas, and it's something that might still need to be worked out. I'm not too sure with how the algorithms are, but alpha clip. The good thing about alpha clip is you can start clipping the threshold here. You can like really fine tune, as you can see here, how much of it you want. Okay. So, as you note, that this cat is a little bit brighter. Early in the tutorial, I talked about how this takes lighting information. We can drag this into emission, and that should fix that up, where now there's no light information. We can do something similar, where we want to add, let's say, these windows or doors. Copy the cat, tab into the cat character, drag to the window, and you can see it's already has the alpha enabled. And let it hover a little bit in front here. Again, this is just a simple way to get in your textures. Or if you have something that you need a scale of, you can do it this way. So now we have windows and a cat. Let's scale this cat down slightly. That's pretty cool. What's amazing now with these shaders is, let's say you have only this material, but you know, you're like, I wonder what it would look like with other colors. Well, the one about shaders is you can hue shift any object. So let's say I will copy this house. As you can note here, each of these are separate. We can parent or join everything together, or we can keep everything nice in a tidy collection. Let's choose the tidy collection. So we'll shift click everything, hit M, new collection, house. Okay. Everything now is in this house. We can duplicate this collection. Now it's house 1. Right click, select objects, and we can move this way. The colors are still the same. That's completely fine. We can see here that's just house. We haven't done anything here. Well, we're going to start adding a little more complex. We're going to start adding something more complex here. Sorry, I get tongue-tied sometimes. Shift A. I'm going to look for something called color ramp. I'm going to Shift A again. Hue, saturation. Color into here. And now these numbers, actually, I'm thinking of a different way of doing this. This is all done in real time, so forgive me. We can go into object info. We can put it into random with hue. And now, as you can see, colors can be completely random based on the object info. If I shift, move this around now, you can see it's changing colors. But the windows are still staying the same. That's because we're using the cat. We can click this, cat 01, and we call this windows. We can do the same thing here. Base color and emission. Out of curiosity, what happens if I tick this off? That's what I thought. Alright, cool. Now how are we going to change this with the principle of BSDF? Well, we can go here and we can do the same thing with the object info. Use saturation. Plug that into the color. Replace the emission here so it's drawing from the same thing. Go to random hue. And it should be completely random. Now these other windows aren't being random because it needs to be linked to the same material. Now all these other windows are to be completely random because each of these are a separate instance. These are different object informations. If we want all the windows to be the same, we have to combine them together. So we'll click all of them, Control J. Now all the windows are the same. Click on the house and the windows, and we add a different one. We can see that the colors are starting to change randomly. We can do this for our little friend here as well. But since we've already changed the windows, this is where I'm a little efficient or lazy. We can go to Windows here, create a new instance, cat. Now if we start duplicating our friend here, start to see a little bit of a difference. Maybe. There we go. Hopefully you've learned a little bit of how to bring in the textures, how to build a basic randomizing shader here, how to help our friend have more friends. Alright, thank you.